All right. We are recording. It is 5 p.m. We're going to get started. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. My name is Nellie Marvel. I'm the Outreach and Education Manager here at the Cannabis Control Board. Joining me tonight, we also have Kerry Jaguar. He's our Compliance Director. And we're going to talk inventory tracking. The purpose tonight, we have unveiled the newly revamped inventory tracking system for cultivators specifically. We're rolling our new inventory tracking system out in sort of stages. So the first stage, we are doing cultivators, and then we'll do manufacturers, and on down the supply chain. So we're going to spend some time walking you through the system. There are step-by-step guidance documents that are posted on our website right now, and this training is essentially just going to be a repeat of what is available in those inventory tracking guidance documents. But recognizing that different folks have different learning styles, I figured it would be helpful to actually sort of demonstrate this live. So some important things to keep in mind. And a couple of just housekeeping things. If you are joining, please make sure that you are muted. It creates auditory feedback for the rest of the system. So some important dates to keep in mind. Your first inventory tracking system report in the new system is going to be due on March 15th. So that's about a week and a half from today. That is going to be aggregated historical data for each harvest lot that you have created thus far. And so again, that is due on Monday, May 15th. So this is even if you have been completing your inventory tracking all along, you're still going to need to complete that initial report in the new inventory tracking system that contains all the information for your various inventory tracking reports thus far. If you don't have this data available to you outside of the system, please reach out to your compliance agent. Your compliance agent can help you out with this. And so there'll be space also at the end of this training for folks to ask questions as well. So please hold your questions for the end of the training. The chat is open, so you can go ahead and just bung those questions into the chat as well. So with that, I am going to share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. All right. Hopefully everybody is able to see our webpage here. It's our adult use applications and forms website. So you're going to use the licensing portal to do your inventory tracking. You should hopefully have some familiarity with this portal already through the licensing process and potentially through product registration as well if you've been going through that process as well. So if you don't have that licensing portal bookmarked, it is available here. So I'll just go ahead and click that. Again, this at this point should all be familiar with you. I had been logged in before, so it just went right past the login screen. So we've got over here on the side everything that is in the portal, and new recently in the portal is this option for inventory tracking reporting. So you'll click that. And you are going to, for right now, click Cultivator Inventory Tracking Reporting. There are other options on this screen. We're going to hold separate trainings for those options. For right now, we're just going to be focusing on this one right here, Cultivator Inventory Tracking Reporting. So click that. First thing you do is put your license number in. This should actually automatically populate just as soon as you click in there. So I've got myself a dummy small indoor cultivator license that I've set up for myself. So that's my license number. Click that, and you see all of your license information populate. Hit next. We are going to start out with doing a new harvest lot. So are you reporting on an existing harvest lot? No, this is a brand new harvest lot. So no. And you'll see actually if you choose different yes or no, we'll get through this in a minute, but different, whether you chose if this is an existing harvest lot or not, will change over here what the reporting reasons are. So no, this is not an existing harvest lot. Reporting reasons, it's a new harvest lot. Provide the start date for the 2-week reporting period. Again, you have to do your inventory tracking on a bi-weekly basis, regardless of whether or not you had any change in your inventory since your last inventory tracking report. So we're just going to choose today. Today is the start date of my 2-week reporting period. Obviously I'm just sort of putting a date in there. You may choose 2 weeks back for the start date of your inventory tracking report, but you see that 2 weeks out from today, auto-populated. Save and next. All right, we have a warning screen kind of that pops up here, just telling you to not sort of add up things for the system. If you are reporting on 10 plants, only report on those 10 plants. Don't add them up to anything else that is external to this specific inventory tracking report that you're doing. Don't add, the 10 plants from last report to this report. That would result in duplicative data that would confuse the inventory tracking systems down the road. So just report on what is relevant to this particular cycle. So scroll down. This is where we put all of our information in. Excuse me. This is going to be a completely new harvest lot. We are reporting on plants that we have just planted into the ground. So a lot of this information here, we're actually not going to know yet. I've got up in another guidance document that I'll pull up in just a second, some definitions for all of these different fields here. Yep, that's right here. So some of this will be fairly self-explanatory, but your harvest lot number, it's the identifier of your harvest, and you get to select a numerical value for that. We have recommendations of as far as how you identify your harvest lots, but it just needs to be a system that makes sense for you and that can make sense for other people when they have to refer to your data for inventory tracking purposes. Date of planting, the date when all of your plants when they started growing. Date harvest was completed, when they've been cut and they're ready for processing. Plant count, the number of plants in the ground as of the reporting date. So this could change down the road when you're doing future inventory tracking reports, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Waste weight, any part of the plant that was discarded. So unusable cannabis that's going to be destroyed. Wet weight, final weight of the plants at the time of harvest. Flower weight, this is your dried cannabis product. Trim, dry cannabis product that's destined for extraction. Growing style, however you're going to be growing. Hydroponic in ground, yada yada. whether you're growing autoflower or photoperiod plants, what they're being grown from, whether it's clones, seeds, etc. And if it's seed, the source of your seed. So we'll go back to this. So we will do a harvest lot number here. So I'm going to put 1 in here. Date of planting, let's say it's today. My harvest hasn't been completed. I'm just putting my plants in the ground today, so I'm gonna leave that blank. Number of plants in this harvest lot, I'm a small cultivator. I'm maxing out my grow space, 125. No waste yet, again, leave that blank. Haven't done any harvesting, Same. Growing style, I'm growing in ground. Autoflower or photoperiod, I am growing photoperiod. Growing from clones. I produced my clones on site. Number of plants in vegetative growth. It's going to be, since I'm just planting today, the same number of plants are also in vegetative growth. I don't have any plants that are currently in flower, so I'm going to leave that blank. And I'm also going to leave this blank as well. Remember to do your attestations. When I've been testing out inventory tracking, I routinely forget to click the attestation button and get errors for that. Save and next. And this, I made this error on purpose to show that this would happen. Your harvest lot needs to be a unique identifier to each harvest lot that you are doing. And the system is actually set up so that if you have previously used a harvest lot number, it'll reject it. So it forces you to choose a unique harvest lot number. So let's see. I'm going to do 3 for my harvest lot. I haven't done a 3 for my harvest lot yet. So attestation is still clicked. Save and next. Okay. Inputs. So this is where you're going to put information for anything that you've added to your harvest lot, whether it's pesticides, fertilizers, beneficial insects, or soil amendments. I haven't, again, I'm just putting these in today, so I haven't done any inputs yet. I did, as I was planting them, I put some compost in the soil, so gonna do that. And as you can see, none of these fields are required, so you shouldn't get any sort of error messages if you leave them blank because you didn't use any sort of inputs. So use compost. Save and next. All right. You don't have to do anything here unless you notice that like you made an error, and then you can click edit. Or if you realized, oh, I did that wrong, you can hit delete and go from there. So this all looks right. I added some compost to my soil. Hit next. All right. So this is a report again for my initial planting. So I haven't done any process lots with this yet. So as you see up here, if you have a harvest lot that doesn't yet have a process lot, use 0 to identify that. So I'm going to use 0. Save and next. Okay. This looks good. Next. This is where you upload all of your documentation for certificate of analyses. So what the name of the lab you used, and upload your files for all of your COAs. Now you can upload multiple COAs for each of these. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to upload some dummy files here. Okay. And just to demonstrate that you can, in fact, upload multiple into a field where you've already uploaded something, I'm just going to upload another one just for fun. And it worked. So you can do that if you have multiple COAs for one of these fields. Save and next. I am not reporting any loss of product, so no, I am not doing that. Got my attestation. Submit. Boom. Done. You've submitted a new harvest lot. And all of your previous, this automatically will redirect you. So you see underneath inventory tracking reporting, which is where you initially went to submit your report. Underneath that, you've got your previous inventory tracking reports. So this is where you can go in and look at all of the sort of previous submissions you've made over the course of time in this system. So we're going to now move into reporting an existing harvest lot. So go back to inventory tracking reporting, cultivator reporting. Got my license. Yep, looks good. Next. Are you reporting on an existing harvest lot? I am this time. Yes. Now, there are a number of reasons why you might be reporting on an existing harvest lot, and you can see a number of them here. There could be that it could be that your harvest lot, this existing harvest lot, has changed. It could be harvest time, and it's time to break that harvest lot down into multiple process lots to account for wet weight, for waste weight, or it could be that you've entered something in error. This is the change of harvest lot is also what you would do if you've experienced any sort of loss of product. There's there's new process lot as well, which is where, again, you would use this to create a process lot for wet weight or waste weight. Update to inputs. So say you've gotten your clones in the ground, things are growing, looking good, and you get hit with powdery mildew. So this is where you would this is when you would add things like treatments in here. So this is where you would put any anything you've added to your harvest lot. And then there's also other. And Carrie, could you speak to what other reasons cultivators might have for changing an existing harvest lot?
There we couldn't think of everything. The other field is for any other reason there that we didn't think of. And
Great.
when you choose other, there'll be a box that pops up that allows you to describe what that other is. And sort of what in our example in the training, we don't have, when you're reporting a loss, we don't have act of nature, like if a deer comes and takes out a few plants and you've got a decrease and you're reporting a loss of product there, you would choose other and just put active nature or eaten by deer type thing. This is for anything we didn't contemplate in the form, which we tried as best we could to think of all the scenarios, but I know we weren't able to capture all of them.
Okay. So I am actually then going to do other, because my example I was going to do was we had active nature. So we have some hungry deer that have attacked our garden. So all right, we still need to put the reporting period. I'm putting today again. Again, in a real world example, this would um, likely be a different time frame than what I am. You wouldn't likely have an overlap in your inventory tracking reports like this. Okay. All right. So I clicked my most recent one because I'm making an edit to. As you can see, I have a number of inventory tracking reports here, but it's my most recent one that I want to look at. Save and next. All right, this is that same harvest lot information page that you saw before, and as you can see, everything that I put in before has populated. So you will go in and you will change whatever needs to be changed. So in this case, again, we're talking about active nature. A deer came and ate a few of my plants. So um, you do have to manually go in and change that. So number of plants in this harvest lot, it's not 125 anymore. It's now 123. And you have to make sure to change both of these. Um, Again, you may not have to put, if you don't have data for all of these fields, that's fine. You enter data for the fields that you have data for. Great. Next. I don't have any changes in inputs, so I'm gonna skip right through this. Next. Don't have a process lot that I have to change. Next. I don't have any new documents that I have to change. Next. Are you reporting a loss of product? Yes, I am. So at the attestation, and you hit submit. And that should, in a second, you got a pop-up now. And this automatically redirects you via a pop-up to the loss of product reporting. So choose your license number. Next. Loss of product under category. They also have options for recall if you've issued a recall on your product, or any sort of sampling, intra-supply chain sampling. Has the material to be destroyed been assigned to a process lot? No, it has not. Is that correct, Carrie? Since this hasn't been assigned to it, this hasn't been processed further
Correct.
yet? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So you have to search for your harvest lot number for the destroyed cannabis. 3. So you do have to remember your harvest lot number for whichever one you're reporting on. Is the product registered? No, it is not. I'm intending for this just to be bulk flower, so the retailer will take care of registering that. Okay, it's flower, so I'm choosing other there. Reason the product was destroyed. Carrie, what would I choose here for that, since this is a required field and it was an active nature?
We're going to have to add another to this. At this point, adulterated will do just fine.
Okay. All right. And let's see, that was 2 plants that were destroyed. Non-registered product type. Would that be sufficient, Carrie? It was a whole
Yep.
plant? Okay,
Yep.
great. Got my attestation. Hit submit. All right, this looks good. Save and next. Picture of disposal. So just upload a picture of your carnage. So again, it's like a screenshot of our rules. Just upload that. It's a dummy file. And then hit submit. Oops. And see, again, I didn't attest under penalty of perjury that the information I provided the Cannabis Control Board is true and correct. So got to do that. All right. That's all set. So that's inventory tracking. And again, there's a lot of iterations of this, of course, of how the ins and outs of how you can how you would report this data, because of course there's, you know, all the iterations of process lots and harvest lots and the various ways that you know, you might have to destroy cannabis through the systems. So there's a lot of different iterations of this, and we're going to have some time for questions in just a minute. But again, your compliance agent is going to be an invaluable resource through all of this. If you have questions after tonight's event is over, please, please, please reach out to your compliance agent. We want to make sure that you get this right. So please reach out to your compliance agent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think
Yep.
we got some time for questions.
And we do have a lot of questions. One that keeps popping up is sort of why we're asking you to input the inventory tracking on basically last year's crop. If you were small tier one outdoor grower and you only have one harvest lot, we're just asking for you to input the information, basically declare that harvest lot. And you'll only have to report once. You'll put in the harvest lot number. You can either choose the reporting period as all of last year or sometime after you harvested, and how much you harvested, and the different process lots. So if you had multiple strains that went different directions to market, you would have a harvest lot and break that down into the separate process lots. And you only have to do that sort of once per harvest lot. And that's because the information that you have reported through the Microsoft forms, in order for us to sort of get that imported into our system, it would take a couple months for us to get that imported into this new system, going from Microsoft into Salesforce, Microsoft Forms into Salesforce. Was not an easy task, as we saw with the product registration. The old product registration in Microsoft Forms took us a lot longer to get into Salesforce, and we didn't want to replicate that here. And the reason we're opening this up for cultivators first is your retailers and manufacturers, they won't be able to enter data without your harvest lot and process lot numbers in there. I hope that answers some questions. And now we can open it up to live questions. I started answering questions in the chat, but we'll do this live for now. Oh, you're muted, Nelly.
I'm usually so good about that sort of thing. Do you want to turn to the folks who have their hands raised first? Then we can turn to the chat.
Absolutely.
Okay, so up first we have Tree Frog Farms.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. So one, I tried taking a stab at this a couple of days ago for
Mhm.
last year's harvest, and my license number has like a -01 at the end of it. So
Mhm.
needless to say, like I had a hard time getting my harvest lot numbers with the -01 to look like what I had done through the Microsoft reporting. So should I just not do that, come up with my harvest lot as 001 and whatever the numbers are, do it that way?
Yeah, if you saw Nellie's screen, it adds your license number, into the harvest lot number for you automatically. So you just need to put 001 or even 1, and it auto populates your harvest lot number as we sort of described how to do it in the original guidance for the Microsoft forums.
Okay, yep. And then second was I noticed that it had all those spots for amendments and fertilizers and what we've done for the plants. I can
Yeah.
imagine there's going to be a lot of growers like me that are not going to want to share that information because that's 25 years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't required, so I'm just making sure that that's not like
Yeah.
a penalty.
No, it's not required right now. Some people do want to track it. That way, sort of, it'll ease the field agent's record check when they do go to your facility. Also, as um, has been contemplated, the board would offer sort of an environmental sustainability or pseudo organic type certification at some point in the future, and those forms were built to incorporate folks who are enrolling and want to enroll in that sort of program.
Okay, cool.
But yes, that information is more for your records than ours, because you'll have access to all these records, and if you did want a place to keep date of application, what you applied, when you applied, so you could share that information with your field agent when they asked. It's a place for you to do that.
Cool. All right. Thank you. That's all I can think of for now.
All right.
Sunnyview Farm is up next.
Hello?
We can hear you.
All
We
right.
can hear you.
My question is why do we have to take a wet wait?
Yep. That was this is sort of, there are some influence from other inventory tracking systems that are around the country that require that. The wet weight, we're asking for a wet weight of what you harvest, so we can get a sort of coefficient of what your product dries down to. This is sort of we were advised that this is a good way to track inversion or diversion into or out of the market. So basically, if you wet buck and leave the stems in the field, or if you just harvest branches and hang them and leave the stem in the field, it's just a wet weight of what you harvested when you take it out of the field. And it sort of develops a coefficient for each of you on what you get in yield that'll get tracked over time.
I have a problem with how I'm going to weigh the wet
Yeah,
weight. I don't
I
want to
know.
damage the flowers by piling them up or any of that kind of nonsense.
Mhm.
I mean, it just
I
it doesn't.
Yep, yep. I know it's going to be an issue. I don't have advice for a solution. We'll hear from other growers and see who's figured it out, and maybe share that information when we hear what works.
All right. Do you have a question, Ann?
No, I don't.
I guess that's a question I have right now. Thanks.
Yep, I do know the wet weight is a change. Asking for wet weight of harvest pre-drying is a change.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember last year you guys saying you weren't going to
Yep.
ask for wet weight.
Yep. Yep.
And I believe we could damage our product doing it, and I don't think that's fair to ask of them.
A couple of folks in the chat have suggested things like hanging fish scales and the like. So I think your fellow licensed community is a really good resource for this. And these sorts of events, that's part of the reason why we hold these events, is to provide our licensees opportunities to connect and to share exactly this type of information of what's been working for them. So we have another question from, hang on one second. I have a lot of chats that are popping up, which is blocking.
Cosmic Giggle is next.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. We just got our license, so we're actually just doing our first round of inventory tracking now, and I'm just slightly confused on this 2-week period. Your example had the 2 weeks going forward,
Yeah.
but we're supposed to be tracking the past 2 weeks, correct? Okay. And when you say your planting date is today and you're supposed to create your harvest lot on that day, do you just say you're reporting for the last 2 weeks up until today?
So it's going, if you say you're planting today and you put in your information, your plants are in their final resting place, up potted and in the place where you're going to flower them. You'll tell us how many are in that harvest lot. If you're a small cultivator, that's either by square footage or plant count.
Mhm.
Let's just say you're using plant count and you have 125 plants. You'll be prompted at the end of this 2-week period to go in and report again. And when you're prompted, you'll be reporting on the prior 2 weeks what has happened. Sort of like, think of it like a time card that you clock in at work. If you report every 2 weeks, you're reporting on the hours you worked in the previous 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you go in and put in your date of harvest, that sort of starts the clock.
Okay, gotcha. And there was a little confusion when I was doing that about you're saying date of planting, and we're starting from seed, so they're not going to be in their final flowering pot for a few weeks. So are we basically, should we be tracking from like date of germination, date of time they're in soil, or date that they are in the pot they're going to be
Yep.
edging?
So if you can, this is sort of when you saw the breakdown between number of plants and number of plants in veg. If you're
Right.
starting from seeds and you're starting straight run seeds, not feminized, you're going to start more than you need. You'll put the number in that slot that says plants in veg. But really it becomes a harvest lot when you've got your final plant count in the ground, where they're going to flower.
Okay. So you don't need to create a harvest lot for anything until then.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, we have had, I'm going to turn to the chat for a moment. We've had a very active chat, which is really wonderful. I'm going to try to pull some questions out of there. So just bear with me for 1 second. I've had a few people ask about, why is it called a harvest lot if, you know, we're only harvesting once per year? And I just put into the chat that both harvest lot and process lot are defined terms in our guidance. So again, I really encourage folks to read through our guidance. You know, time limits really meant that we weren't able to get as in depth with this training for all the different iterations of like different ways that you would change your process lot and things like that. So I recommend really reading through that guidance because it goes much more in depth than we have time for today. And it also defines things like harvest lot and process lot and things like that, which will help you in your inventory tracking reporting. A few folks have asked why we need to report every 2 weeks if your inventory hasn't changed. And this is just a good habit to get into. This is the requirement that you do need to report every 2 weeks. We want to make sure that this is just muscle memory, reporting on your inventory. You know, regardless of whether or not anything has changed. So do make sure you are doing your required reporting every 2 weeks. Let's see, just scrolling back. Were there any that really popped out at you, Carrie, while I'm going back and looking?
I started answering. I just nothing popped out. The what we
Okay. All right, great. Let's see. A few folks asking about how to do different aspects of inventory tracking. I really do recommend getting into the system and just working on inputting your information. It seems like it's a big daunting task, but it's actually, once you get into it, it is fairly intuitive. It seems more daunting than it actually is.
and we've had almost 400 submissions already.
Mhm.
Um,
Someone asking about if they're growing from seed, they're going to have as a small cultivator, they're going to have far more than 125 seedlings to start with, and you know, 50% of those are going to be males. How are we going to be accounting for this through inventory tracking?
Yep, they'll let us know what they've got in the ground, and hopefully, like I keep using small cultivator, but at the end, when they're able to sex them, they should only have 125 plants in the ground. So if they start off with double that, they'll cull half of them and just let us know through the inventory tracking. Boy, the chats are coming very fast. No, so no change. Oh, so Myra, no change. You will just go in and change the reporting period, click through the screens with the attestations, and hit submit. We don't want your personal use flower in our inventory tracking. This is just for cannabis making it to the retail market. No, you need to make a harvest lot. Howard, you might not even know you did. Your harvest lot will be 01, but if your cannabis is going into the retail market, the harvest lot is how it'll be tracked. That is what we use for inventory tracking.
Okay, great. I'm going to turn back to the folks that have their hands raised in the meeting now. So Shannon, you are up next. Shannon Green River.
Hi guys. I attempted today and I waited because I wanted to make sure I'm inputting it correctly. So that brings me to my first point. Because we waited and because this has to be done before we can fill out the transfer forms, are we going to be penalized for being late?
No, you're not. You're not. We're giving cultivators until the 15th to get their information in. Shannon, I tried to call you today. I did get your email, and I was hoping you would be on. Nope. And if you're still struggling, if you haven't, if this didn't work for you, shoot me an email and we'll walk through it on the screen, probably Monday.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. This has answered some questions. My main question was, and maybe I missed it because I jumped on like 2 minutes late. Do we have to enter all the information we've already entered, all the past harvest lots that have already gone out, or only the ones that we're currently working on? So
Yeah,
like our current one would be harvest lot 8.
Yep.
So do I have to put in all the ones 1 through 7?
Yes, one record for each
Oh.
harvest lot, though, not all the information for the growth of that harvest lot, just one report of that harvest lot, the weight of flour, the weight of trim, the weight of waste, and any process lots. And that's so if your product is still in the retail market, when the retailers go in to report their inventory tracking, it's going to be looking for your harvest lot number or process lot number. So you'll have to do the previous 7.
So
but,
much information.
I know. And if you need your records that you've already reported, let me know.
Okay. I mean, we have all ours on paper, thank God, so I can go back and look. It's just gonna really take some time. But we'll try our best to get it done before the deadline. And what if, because wet weight wasn't required before, how
Nope.
do I get past that wet weight?
You just don't enter it. What we're looking for
Just
is
don't
your
enter it.
total, the number of plants in that harvest lot and the total final weights of dry.
Final weights.
Yep, final weights. Just
Okay.
one number, like
Okay.
just your total flour, your total
Yeah.
trim, however you have that broken down.
Okay. And I just have 2 more quick questions. Sorry, I don't mean to take up everyone's time. Seeds and clones. So we just started doing some seeds. We've done mostly clones.
Mhm.
Do those need to be in separate harvest lots, even though they may be harvested on the same date?
They don't. If you if you treat them the same once you've got them in are you talking about your indoor or outdoor?
And we do indoor.
Yeah, your indoor. Once you've got them in your flower room, like
Mm-hmm.
whether it's come from a cedar clone, you can distinguish in the inventory tracking, you can choose both.
Okay.
You just, as long as you're treating them the same throughout the process, throughout their growth, same flowering cycle, same inputs, that's one harvest lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to you can have different seeds or clones in a harvest lot. Yep. And as many
Okay. I was just
cultivars as
confused
you
because
want.
I was confused because they'll have different planting dates. Like the seeds, we were putting the plant date that we actually planted the seed, but for the
Mhm.
clones, we would put it when we actually put them in the dirt, which would be the veg state, which is I think what we talked to you about earlier. But
Yep. Yep.
and
I
then I
would
guess my
say once you move them into your flower room, the way you're operating, once you move them into your flower room, that's when you create a harvest lot.
Okay, perfect. That answers that. And then you guys mentioned a compliance agent where we all assigned one. Did I miss that? I'm not sure who that would be.
Did you guys move?
No.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if you had or not. Yes, yep. We'll put that map up shortly. It'll be finalized in the next
Okay.
week or 2. And we've got 6, and we've broken the state into 6 territories. So
Is that on the website? I totally missed
not
that.
yet, not yet. We're
Okay.
still arm wrestling over some border towns.
Okay, well then I'm going to keep bugging you.
Fair enough.
Well, thank you very much for your time, guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to take one more from the folks who have raised their hands, and I'm going to give those who have joined by phone a chance to answer ask some questions as well. So, Passion Fruit Farms, you're up next.
Real simple question, but I log into the CCB portal and my email has changed since I registered originally. And so now when I do log in my into the cultivator tracking report, my license number isn't found. So I don't necessarily read it here, but when I
real simple answer, you're going to you're going to have to reach out to licensing and they'll sort of get your portal reassigned to you.
Okay. Okay.
It's something that we'll have to do for you. Yep.
All right. Happy to do that.
All right, I'm going to turn to the phones and I'll give folks in the chat another chance to have their questions answered as well. So if you have joined via phone and have a question, you can hit *6 to unmute, and I will call out your phone number by the last 4 digits. Again, that's *6 to unmute. All right, seeing none. Someone had a question about inventory tracking if they are intending most of their product to be clones and seeds. How do they navigate the inventory tracking then?
The inventory tracking isn't necessarily designed for you if you're sort of hoping for the nursery license. We'll track most of your inventory tracking through the transfer forms. There'll be transfer forms that ask cultivators the source of their material, and you'll be filling out a transfer that says you transferred this much plant material to them. So you won't necessarily have to interact with the inventory tracking for cultivators that we're looking at right now, but there will be a way to do it.
And there is a bill in the legislature right now that includes a specific nursery license. So that bill hasn't passed yet, but it is in the legislature. Okay. Just giving it a scan. I apologize if I'm missing your question in the chat. As I'm sure all of you are aware, the chat is very fast moving. I'm just scanning as we go. All right. I'm going to actually turn back to folks who have raised their hands. Samuel, you're up next.
Great, thanks. Just a few questions and probably a yes, no, I'll run through them. I think you've discussed a lot of these, but just to clarify. So first of all, for wet weight, for folks panicking about that, I think as long as you're consistent, it's my understanding, right? If you're consistently harvesting in a way, you're weighing it, you know, if you leave your fan leaves on, then yeah, that'll be part of it, but you would consistently do that. So I see people panicking in the chat, but it doesn't, yeah, it's one more step, but I don't think you have to sweat it. So
and Sam, thanks. Thanks that I didn't make that point, but yes, just be consistent from harvest to harvest, year to year, how you do that. And that'll be a data point that'll be available to you.
And I would imagine, like, if you tear your scale for the weight of a bin in a bin liner and you use that every single time you go into your drying room, even if you have a few bins and they're off by 1/10 of a gram, that it's not that sort of precision that you're looking
No,
for. Okay.
It is not.
Yeah, so for the start of flowering dates for sun-grown crops, I saw some questions about that in the chat and just looking for some clarification on how, you know, are we saying the first time we see pre-flowers, that's when it's switching? Or is it,
For the outdoor crops, we're not
Yeah.
looking for the data flower. That's for the indoor and mixed tiers, just when you went to 12-12.
Perfect.
What? Yep.
Yeah, and then seedlings, you don't care until it's in the ground. So I'd imagine we're not reporting that we have 5 trays of seedlings that we're selecting from. It's just once it's moved into its home in the ground or otherwise.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then,
And, we went over that last year with folks that were sort of pheno hunting and starting clones. And what do I do if half my clones don't make it? This is, yep. Go ahead.
cool.
Hopefully.
Yeah, pesticide info is not required for this past year. Is that correct? So if we have an Excel spreadsheet and the licensor wants to see that, we can just share that rather than upload each application of regalia or whatever. Okay. And then samples for employees, or principals, and then for vendors, how do we report those? Is that waste or loss?
The loss of product has drop downs for samples to employees and samples to retail establishments or wholesalers as a vendor. Yep, it's just you track your samples as a loss.
Cool. Thanks for the rapid fire answers.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully we can get to the last 3 folks in the next 5 minutes.
Yes, so we have Wyeth up next.
Yeah, thanks. You just answered one, I think, on the flowering times in for outdoor grows, but it seems like though harvest lot is encompassing, everything planted, whereas with different strains and different things can happen. We treat different strains differently. We may amend different strains differently. We might, if we're not creating process lots out of a harvest lot till we actually harvest those, like some of the stuff that we're reporting for a harvest lot doesn't make sense for individual strains. That's one question. Like for the flowering one is a good example. Some strains go into flower earlier than others. The other one question I had was around like seeds, where you get your seeds from and things like that. Some of that's proprietary data, and it's also some of it is unknown. I have a seed bank that I have all the strains. I know what they are, but I might not know exactly where I got them from at what point. And was that a required field? I can't remember.
So it's required what your starting stock is. And as we move forward with nursery licenses, this is sort of answering the question that someone asked in the chat about what if they're producing seeds and clones as a nursery license. That will help us track movement from those nursery licenses. You can hide the information, just what you're feeling is proprietary, as long as you sort of describe the source.
Okay, what if I have a large seed bank? What if I just don't know where this particular seeds came from?
So they're your personal stash. You're going to say produced on site. Yep.
Okay, produced on site. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as like the different harvesting times, you said that I can't remember if it was a required field for like flowering time. A lot of those fields, if they're required and as a tier 1 outdoor grower, you're saying we don't need to put anything in them. What do we do if it's required? Just
Yep. So as you harvest that harvest lot, if you're taking them down over the course of a month, you're going to be spanning multiple reporting period times. You're going to say, I harvested 40 plants out of my harvest lot in this reporting period. I harvested another 20 in this reporting period. I harvested the remainder. What are we up to? 80.
Yeah, that makes sense for the harvesting period. I'm talking about during the long grow season, during the summer here. I need to do this every 2 weeks from when I put my plants in the ground. So like, how for a required field, like you said, the went into flower period or any of these things that are required that you're saying don't apply to certain people, if they have a red asterisk next to them, how do we get past those fields? If you're saying they're not required for me.
Yep. So your harvest lot, read the definition of harvest lot. That's sort of anything that's grown the same and treated the same. Even if you've got multiple, if you're treating your harvest lot and you're just spot treating with amendments, then you're going to say you're spot treating instead of treating the whole thing.
Okay.
But you'll see the information. The ones that are required are your harvest weights, like your wet weight, dry weight, weight of trim, weight of waste, and the number of plants that you harvested. So those are the main required fields, and there's everything else is because it's in flux throughout the growing season. It's not automatically required during a specific reporting period.
Okay, that makes sense. Last question is during harvest, at some points, we dry things and then we trim them later. And so they're like the dried flower weight will, and then the trim weight might be different from week to week, even though all we did was trim some dried, untrimmed flower. So now we have more trim, but then our dried flower weight will go down because of that trim, and the trimmed weight will go up. And I just want to make sure that that's not going to be any type of inconsistently, like, oh, you reported dry flower of X weight, and now all of a sudden it's gone down, and you didn't report a loss, those types of things.
It won't cause a red flag. Nope, we know enough about how you operate. Nelly, I'd be willing to sort of entertain Jeff's question because he's the last guy, and hopefully we can do it quick.
Yeah, I'm done.
We do have two more folks that have raised their hands. So let's go. Lance had his hand raised first, and we are past 6 at this point, so we do need to be wrapping up. But Lance is up first.
Thanks. I was just hoping for a little further explanation on the difference on the plant counts in there. There's the plant count and then the plants and veg. Is that just?
So our system is designed to accommodate outdoor, indoor, and mixed growers. So mixed tier or indoor growers have allotted some of their space to veg out of their square footage. So we're just accounting for that. The fact that not all of their room is flower room. And also this is sort of the folks who started from seed and have, like, we heard 5 trays of who knows what. This is if you want to account for that. So when the compliance agent shows up and says, hey, you didn't tell us you had all this. If you tell us it's there in inventory reporting.
Okay. Thanks.
Jeff.
So, yeah, the question about so I know if I have in say an indoor strain flower A, and that's say harvest lot 1, and then I do another say harvest lot 2 of the same flower, I would only need to do the additional COAs to register it for the year. Does that cross over to outdoor? So I guess if I had an outdoor strain and then I had the same strain indoor in the same year, would that be the same product, or would I still need 2 separate registrations, if that makes sense?
It depends on how you're selling it. If you're selling it as bulk flower, your COAs can change, but if you're putting it into a product and your guarantees for THC are changing, then it's different products. But if you're selling it bulk through a retailer, you wouldn't need to.
Okay, so only if I say package an individual like eighth or whatever of the flower, then I would need the separate registrations for outdoor and indoor.
Jeff, your question is a little bit more complex, and if you want to shoot me an email, I saw your question here in the chat. I'll go over the bulk guidance with you, and sort of you'll let me know exactly how you're bringing your product to market, and I'll tell you what you need to do.
Okay, great. And just email you with that?
Yep. And it's just, you can find me, carrie.jaguar@vermont.gov.
Great, well, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, I see that a number of people still have questions. We are past 6. So this recording will be available on YouTube. I'll upload that tomorrow once I start work again. And then, you know, if you if you're a cultivator that holds multiple types of licenses, you are, for your other licenses, still going to need to use the old inventory tracking system, so the old Microsoft form. You own, as of right now, as of this date, the new Salesforce-based inventory tracking is only available for cultivators. We will be unveiling the Salesforce-based inventory tracking for other license types in the coming weeks. So with that, Carrie, do you have any final words before we wrap up?
I don't. I hope this was helpful. And like I said, I looked at inventory tracking right before we got on. Some of you have been submitting while we've been on right now, but there's there's over 400 records already. So thank you. And like I said, this is the beginning of the system, and your harvest lot and process lot numbers need to be in there for the rest of the industry. And we're working on that. This is actually going a lot quicker than if we tried to migrate the Microsoft form data. So thank you all very much.
All right, wonderful. Thank you all. Have a good night.